Why can the obelisks of the Karnak Temple stand for 3,000 years? In the past, few women could ascend to the highest position of power. Even if they did, they had to stand behind their husbands or sons, humbly telling everyone, "I have no ambition to rule this country." Why did it have to be this way? Over 3,400 years ago, the Egyptian queen Hatshepsut began to feel increasingly unfair. Her husband had been weak and sickly since childhood and died after only a few years of marriage, leaving the reins of power in her hands. She was practically as powerful as an emperor now, so why couldn't she be a pharaoh herself? But out of consideration for the feelings of the people, she had to let her stepson, a boy of not even 10 years old, marry her daughter and then assist him in ascending to the throne, known as Thutmose III. The young king knew nothing of state affairs, and Hatshepsut still wielded considerable power. Unwilling to be merely a queen mother, she declared herself regent. During this time, Egypt ceased its aggressive wars and turned its attention to commercial exchanges with neighboring countries, becoming very prosperous as a result. After amassing wealth, Hatshepsut, like all male pharaohs, wanted to build a temple to the sun god to seek divine blessing for herself. Thus, she constructed a mortuary temple in the capital, Thebes. The mortuary temple was located within the Karnak Temple, on the east bank of the Nile, 700 kilometers south of Cairo. The Karnak Temple was the gathering place of temples for the pharaohs of Egypt throughout history and is still considered sacred by the Egyptian people today. But Hatshepsut's happy days didn't last long. As the young pharaoh grew up, he began to oppose his mother, demanding repeatedly that she relinquish power. He even used his identity as pharaoh to suppress her, which infuriated Hatshepsut. Feeling that as the de facto ruler of the country, she didn't need to endure such humiliation, she boldly sent Thutmose III to the Karnak Temple, making a king of a great nation into a mere priest. But there had never been a precedent for a woman to be a pharaoh, so how could she silence the rumors? Hatshepsut turned to the temple for a solution. She spread rumors throughout the country that she was the daughter of the sun god Amun. She had many golden plates placed at the top of the obelisks in the mortuary temple. And whenever the sun rose, the plates would emit a dazzling light, illuminating the entire temple as if it were emitting golden light. Finally, Hatshepsut dressed in men's clothing, put on a fake beard, and had all her subjects address her as pharaoh, finally fulfilling her wish. To thank the sun god for his help, the new queen rewarded the priests in the temple generously and restored many ancient buildings. In addition, she built one of the most important buildings in Egyptian history, the two Karnak Obelisks. These obelisks were made of local materials, quarried in Aswan, and transported 150 kilometers down the Nile to the Karnak Temple. The queen shamelessly proclaimed next to the obelisks that the sun god had bestowed upon her the divine power to rule over the Black Land and the Red Land, and that her rule would be as eternal as that of the gods. The queen thought she could rest easy, but she didn't realize that her lifespan could not be as long-lasting as that of the gods. She would one day grow old, and her energy would no longer keep pace with the youth. 22 years later, the deposed Thutmose III returned and ultimately reclaimed the throne. The first thing he did after regaining power was to destroy all palaces and statues bearing the queen's name. Interestingly, Thutmose III did not destroy the mortuary temple. Perhaps he still cherished the last vestiges of familial affection. However, the obelisks were too tall, being the tallest buildings in Egypt at the time. So Thutmose III came up with a solution. He built tall walls around the obelisks, leaving only a 4-meter-high section at the top, on which was inscribed praises to the god Amun. No one expected that this historical anecdote would give the world a surprise. The walls blocked the desert's fierce winds, allowing the queen's obelisks to remain intact for 3,000 years. Although one of the two obelisks has already broken, the other still stands proudly, becoming the tallest obelisk in Egypt today.